Hello, and welcome to my channel, Main's Mind. So today we are going to talk about Where the Crawdads Sing. I wasn't going to read this book, but it just kept popping up on my suggestions. I'm more of a dystopian type fiction person, but um, I do step out from that genre sometimes, and this right here was surprisingly really good. I was afraid that it was going to be kind of a depressing book, but it turned out to be much better than I expected. It far exceeded my expectations. Now, I am going to try really hard not to spoil this book for you, but because I'm still new at these no spoilers, um, I can't make promises. So, if you haven't read this book, go ahead and pause, go read it, and then come back. This book is beautifully written. It is written by Delia Owens. Now, when I first started reading it, I was really overwhelmed by her use of descriptive language. It was like very, very colorful. But once I got used to it and I looked up what a palmetto is, then it wasn't as thick as I had thought it was at first. It started to create this really beautiful picture of what was going on in the story and the scenery. And yes, I didn't know what a palmetto was. I'm from a semi-desert where we have mesquite bushes and yucca plants and a lot of sand. If you were analyzing this book from an academic standpoint, there's just so many things you could go into in this book, from character analysis, because you've got so many characters that have so much trauma and so much history that's just kind of touched on in this book. You've got human behaviors. This book touches on racial prejudice, cultural prejudice, class, gender discrimination. It's based in a time in the 50s when, there was during a time of segregation. So you've got that, and then you've got the fact that the main character is a poor girl living in the swamps. You've got that type of discrimination. She's a female, so that's another form of discrimination. So you've got all of these really complex cultural, societal um, conflicts interwoven. Her use of figurative language draws a lot of parallels between real life and then nature. She gets a lot of descriptions in this story that's comparing the way humans behave to the way animals behave, or even insects. You have this book right here. I mean, if you were doing this for academic reasons, then there's so much analysis that could be done on this book for the simple fact that she runs parallel plots. Well, because it runs parallel plots, you've got one that happens in the past and one that's going on in the present. I say they're parallel plots because you're presented with two conflicts and then two settings, and as the story progresses they kind of merge into one storyline where you get to the end. The main character really goes through several changes throughout the story. She originally starts off as a little girl, and then you watch her grow and you watch these conflicts that she faces by herself throughout the story. She progresses into this highly intelligent woman, but because she's so isolated, nobody actually knows who she is. And so, as it says in the beginning of the book, right here, there is a murder that occurs to the very handsome Chase Andrews, and they automatically assume that it's our main character, Kaya. Okay? Because she's the marsh girl, the poor girl living out in the swamps on her own. It's a very good coming to age story. It covers not just her growth into a woman, but the growth of her male counterparts into men. And you get two very different types of men. You get a violent man and you get a very loving man. Both are obsessed with her and they both show her different parts of life. But she's so used to being on her own that the way she was raised, the way she grew up affects her throughout her life. So I am going to keep this one short, not because I don't have a lot to say about this book. If I analyze this book and I go through this book, this would be a very long video. But it is a very good book, much better than I had expected. Not usually the type of books that I read, but definitely one that I do not regret reading. It is a very good book. As far as the book itself, I'll give it the 5 stars. As far as the characters, definitely 5 stars. She does go very, very heavy with the descriptive language. So that's something you need to pay attention to, the descriptive language, the comparisons that she draws between the characters and nature. Because when she draws these comparisons, you're like, oh, yeah, I could see that. I could see why this happened. Oh, gee, she's talking about this, the society. Or she's talking about this comparison. She's comparing this woman to these traits. So, I mean, you've got to really pay attention to what's going on in the book, because there is a lot going on in this book. It's not just her. Even when she's by herself, she's looking at animals and creatures and the swamp and the marsh and insects, and she's drawing comparisons between nature, what happens in nature, and what happens in real life society and everything else. So, go read it. Enjoy it. Okay, and that is my first attempt at a spoiler-free review. I hope that is good for you guys. Let me know how I did. If you do want to read more with spoilers, you can go visit my website, mainsmind.com, and I'll post the link below. If you like what I had to say, if you have questions, please like and comment below. I'd love to have a discussion with you all, and don't forget to subscribe. See you all next time.